Hello, beautiful angels. You know, ah, isn't it beautiful? Isn't it beautiful behind me? I have been living on this beautiful farm outside of Madrid for about 2 months now. And it's so funny how I thought coming to a very secluded, remote place outside the city, away from most people, like basically leaving human civilization for a bit, I thought it would bring a lot of peace. And I thought, I guess I just assumed there would be no chaos out here. There would be no disturbances. Now I can just get away from other people during all the craziness of our current planet. I wanted to get away from all the noise and the chaos that's been unfolding, especially in the year 2025, this year, as I'm filming this. Like, I really wanted to get away. I came to this farm, and little did I know, funny enough, it doesn't really matter where you go. Like, the lessons that you need to learn on your human journey, on your evolution, they're going to appear. And that's pretty much what I've been learning my 2 months on this farm. I could have gone to a cave in outer space somewhere, and I think the same lessons that my soul was ready to learn, those lessons still would have found their way to me. And I am just kind of having a little laugh with the universe right now because it's like what they say, wherever you go, there you are. And I can't help but laugh because it's so true. Like, yes, I'm on this beautiful farm, and yes, there have been moments of peace. There have been beautiful moments that I was hoping to find, like I've been hugging trees, you know what I mean? Like, I've been talking to animals. I've been encountering all these beautiful little creatures of planet Earth here, and I've always loved animals, but being out in nature has actually shown me even special gifts, intuitive gifts I didn't even know I had, in terms of connecting with Earth and with animals and just experiences that I've never really had while living in a city. It's been a really special time here. However, you know, on the shadow side of things, let's say, the duality that we find here on this planet, on the shadow side of things, I've also been confronted, like so unexpectedly. Literally, it felt like a emotional bomb was dropped into my life here on the farm about a month ago with the arrival of a certain guest. Unexpectedly, I was confronted with some of my absolute deepest fears, that I thought I had overcome. Now, years of therapy. I've been 7 years on my spiritual awakening healing journey at this point. And I thought I had overcome a lot of fears and a lot of things from my childhood. A lot of I've witnessed or experienced almost every form of abuse that you can imagine. And, it's been a very long, intense journey, my healing journey to heal from trauma, to retrieve, broken pieces of myself that happened as a result of trauma. And little did I know that coming to what I thought would be such a peaceful, harmonious place. And in some ways it has. And in other ways, it has absolutely forced me to confront my deepest fears, which got incredibly unexpectedly triggered by the arrival of a guest at this farm. And to be honest, like, the funny thing is, I never even had any issue with this person in particular, but it was more like when this person came into the farm to stay for an indefinite amount of time, I was suddenly like emotionally slapped across the face with the reminder of all of my darkest memories from my home, my childhood home, my family dynamics, my own upbringing. All of it was actually represented in this person, through learning about their history, mental health conditions, their own experience with, heavy topics, let's say. I don't want to go into all the details, but this is a person who also came from a ton of abuse in their family, and just something about their presence triggered such a deep level of fear in me. And I found myself I kept trying to make this guest go away. Like, I spent an entire week sharing my story, sharing my experience with trauma and domestic abuse, and a history of instability, emotional volatility, violence that I've experienced in my own upbringing, in certain relationships, all this toxicity and toxic dynamics. I did everything in my power. I talked to multiple people involved at this farm, and I literally did everything I could possibly think of to have my voice be heard and like prevent this guest from staying here. But little did I know that this was actually an opportunity for me to finally stop running. I have been moving, I have been on the move, I have been traveling and changing homes and changing environments so many times over the last, let's say, 15 years of my life. Part of it was the fun of traveling and exploring, and I definitely grow through travel. That is actually in my astrological birth chart. The way that I transform is found in my 9th house, through long distance travel and through learning and learning about other cultures. And so my soul has been doing that through travel. It helps me transform. However, there is another part of the traveling that I now understand has been deeply rooted in the trauma I experienced, in my formative years as a kid, as a teenager. Through my own home dynamics and my own toxic family systems that I grew up in. Little did I know that, the fear and anxiety that I formed from a young age through traumatic things that I witnessed and endured, I have been carrying an unbelievable amount of pain and fear that I never allowed myself to actually release. I never allowed myself to feel those intense feelings and finally free them viscerally from my actual body. I had no idea until the arrival of this guest. I had no idea until all these fears got triggered by what this person reminded me of, what they represented to me from my childhood, from my own history with trauma. I had no clue the level of fear that I was still carrying in my body until this triggering happened. And as insanely uncomfortable as it was, I spent about 2 weeks facing it. I spent about 2 weeks staying in this environment and really learning how to face these feelings of fear. Now, I'm not saying this to encourage anybody to stay in a situation that actually is toxic and harmful. where someone is actually at risk of any type of abuse. I am absolutely not encouraging that. But there was something about this situation where I knew on a deeper level, my intuition was telling me actually to stay and stop running. There were other people in the home with me who were friends of this guest, and as much as I expressed my worries, everybody reassured me that they knew this person's history and that they knew he had no history of violence. There was nothing pointing to that. There was no evidence from people that knew this person that I would be harmed. And for once in my life, I chose to actually stop running from these feelings of fear. Every time I was triggered in the past, I would run. I would literally say, I'm out of here and I'm moving and I'm done. This time was different. I actually intuitively felt I was in a situation actually designed to help me face the fear and truly heal from it. So it was 2 weeks of intense crying every day, constantly using my voice, letting the people know that also live here on the farm with me and I interact with, letting them know what I was going through and actually letting people in. Usually I would just completely shut people out and feel totally misunderstood and, furious and just want to run and scream and hide. But somehow in this experience, I told myself, that's what you've always done. Now you have an opportunity to approach the feelings of fear and anxiety. You have an opportunity to actually behave differently than how you've always behaved. You have the chance to respond differently than how you've always done it in the past. You have an opportunity to actually face your fear head on and discover what it's trying to tell you. And in this experience of staying with the feeling of fear, I actually had the chance to ask it, what are you trying to teach me? What do you want me to learn from this insanely intense emotion? I mean, the amount of fear that was flowing through my body for those 2 weeks, I literally felt like I wanted to rip myself out of my skin. That's how intense it was. But from all my experience with healing and spiritual development and healing from trauma, letting those emotions flow through your body, letting those emotions be expressed through healthy outlets, I dug deep into myself to use everything I'd been learning on this journey. And one day, this day was a huge catalyst moment for me. The fear was so intense in my body that I decided, enough is enough. I'm going to take myself out to the woods. I'm going on a walk. I don't know where I'm going. I don't know what I'm doing. I don't know why I'm doing this. I just need to walk. I need to physically let these intense emotions move through my body, and I'm going to talk to them. I'm going to speak to these emotions, and I'm going to ask them, what are you trying to tell me? What are you here to teach me, fear? Because I cannot, continue holding on to that emotion. I couldn't keep it inside me, and so I did something about it. So on this walk, I'm out on this farm outside of Madrid. I'm totally secluded. There is no escape. There were no more distractions. I couldn't drown myself in alcohol. I couldn't go out partying, go to a concert, do something really loud and distracting. There was just nothing left to hide. There was nothing left to hide from. There was no way to distract myself from these feelings. So I walked up a mountain, you guys. I walked myself up a giant hill outside this farm. I was sobbing like I've never sobbed before. And you know what it felt like? It actually felt like a part of me literally was dying. That's what it felt like. It felt like a version of me was finally ready to be released, to be dissolved. And that version of me was the scared little girl who got trapped inside of me from her first experiences with fear. That version of me was the little girl who was terrified in her own home, who spent every second at home locked away in her bedroom, who had absolutely nobody to talk to express her feelings, to share her concerns with, to be comforted by. I was facing this fear head on. I was allowing it to flow through my body, through crying, through walking. I started singing out in the woods. I said, whatever, like, it's got to get out. I started singing. I started talking to God. I started talking to the universe. I started talking to the fear. And I said, what are you trying to teach me? Why are you here? I am ready to let you go. Show me how. Show me how to let go of you, like once and for all. And so I kept walking. I kept crying. I felt it was the most discomfort I think I've ever felt in my body. But I finally had reached that point in my journey. I even said out loud while I was on this walk, I said, universe, I do not feel strong enough to carry this. I am not strong enough to carry this energy, this emotion. What do I do? And I literally heard the response. It said, of course you are. Yes, you are. You are strong enough. You are strong enough. We would never give you this experience right now if we knew you couldn't handle it. And as soon as I heard that response, I knew that was correct. I knew that was right. I knew that I was strong enough to finally release this fear. And as I kept walking, as I kept crying, I didn't even know what I was doing. I didn't know where I was going or what I was doing. I just heard put one foot in front of the other. Just keep going. And so I did. And I kept walking up this hill, sobbing in tears, until I literally reached this crossroads. It's so wild, you guys. I reached this crossroads. I was walking literally on Mercury Street. Mercury Street, Mercury, the planet of communication. I reached the intersection with, I am not kidding, Mars Street. That's what it was called. The intersection of Mercury and Mars. The planet of communication meets the planet of action. Once I got to Mars Street, I made a right, and I started hearing vicious dogs barking in the distance. And again, I was just paralyzed. I was absolutely frozen in my tracks by even more fear, even more terror. My mind immediately jumped to the worst case scenario. Oh my God, like it's a vicious dog. There's a fence. What if there's a hole in the fence and the dog can get out and it's gonna come. It's gonna hurt me. It's gonna, My mind immediately jumped to the worst case scenario that like, oh my God, this is the end. This is how it ends with this dog. With this dog coming after me. That is where my mind went because I was already so consumed by fear. And so for the last time, I asked out loud, I said, okay, universe, what am I meant to learn about fear? I'm ready. I'm ready to learn this lesson because I can't stand this anymore. I can't stand carrying this with me anymore. And as I heard that dog barking, I looked over at it and suddenly I had clarity. The dog was behind a fence, a huge, huge fence. I never even saw the dog. It was covered by trees. And all of a sudden, as it kept barking, it hit me. The fear is just noise. I am divinely protected. That fear is an illusion. It is just noise. And all I had to do was tell it to leave. That's what I did. I looked straight over at the dog. I couldn't see it, but wherever the sound was coming from, I looked straight at it. And I just said, leave. And I kid you not, as soon as I said that with full conviction, the dog went away. The barking stopped. The noise was gone. And suddenly I realized that's what fear was trying to teach me. It was always an illusion. I was never actually in danger. I was just remembering the emotion of danger. And I was finally allowing that cycle of trauma that I experienced as a child, where it started. It was an incomplete experience. That's what trauma is. It's an incomplete emotional experience. It's an emotion that never got the chance to be fully felt, expressed, and released so that you're no longer carrying it. And that's what I allowed myself to do that day on this mountain, out on the farm, with this dog. All I had to do was tell it with full conviction, leave. You have no power over me anymore. And in doing that, I freed myself. If you enjoyed this message, you guys, I would love if you would like, share, or subscribe to my channel. Leave a comment if this resonated with you. What has your battle with fear been? What has your journey with fear been? And have you ever had the opportunity to face it head on and free yourself? What was that like for you? I would love to hear from you in the comments so we can all encourage each other along the way, you know? Let me know your stories. I would love to hear. And if you would like more content like this, more stories like this, more soul transmissions, musings from my heart to yours to help inspire and motivate you along your own evolution and healing journey, there is a link in the description to my newsletter. I would love if you would sign up and come along on this wild, crazy journey with me. So stay flowing, stay growing. I'm sending you lots of love on this wild human journey. See you in the next video. Bye.